Welcome to the review boat. I'm a hunka bustin' darn.
And I'm the jeweler.
And I'm Tomlinson Holman, creator of THX.
I know you guys keep on insisting that I'm part of this Reviewniverse. I don't remember any of this, but I do know that as far as this reality is concerned, I'm the one and only Claymore Cutlass.
And we're all here for the Review Boat New Year's Eve Slumber Party Extravaganza.
So, when do we get to play Spin the Bottle?
A better and less creepy question would be, where's M.A. Moreno?
I think he's filming a Cine-cool show.
Guess he's too good for us.
So, let's give him something to review.
Oh boy! Thanks, guys! Mr. Moreno, there's only one movie that could possibly be for a night like this. The Slumber Party Massacre! Roll the trailer!
The basketball team is planning a party. But be on the lookout for an uninvited guest.
Please, please.
Some people may have to leave early, but for those who stay, there'll be plenty of surprises. The Slumber Party Massacre. Close your eyes for a second and sleep forever.
Well, if I'm going to be having to review a slasher flick, I better hide in my closet. Oh, blue polos, please protect me. The Slumber Party Massacre from 1982 is a prime example of a golden age slasher film. For the first act of the film, which is definitely the weakest part, it definitely feels like your standard golden age slasher. It feels pretty by the numbers, much like, you know, a film like Graduation Day. But in the second act, we get a really good exploration of our characters who are not just simple virgins and sluts, you know, which is the categories we've sort of become used to in slasher films. Women who are sexual but who are not vilified for it. The film was co-written by a famous feminist author and the director of the film who also co-wrote Beethoven. So both of them have a strong sense of wit, and that's really what makes the movie work. Whether it's watching a young teenage girl finding her sister's Playgirl magazine and deciding to enjoy a nice banana with it, or whether it's the would-be victims deciding to eat a pizza over the dead pizza boy's body, it is rather clever for one of these early slasher films. And it has plenty of peppered-in moments of humor that really help to balance out the horror aspects, which really don't hold up as well. Also, there's the subtext that the movie tries to make sure that you don't miss when its killer, Russ Thorne, carries around a giant drill that he uses to penetrate his female victims. It gets a fairly good recommendation from me if you are a fan of slasher films, and if you're not, you could definitely do worse than this one.
You know, that first one played it way too straight. I need something more outlandish, wild, crazy, zany, rock and roll, sex and drugs, America, yes. Show me that sequel.
If you saw Slumber Party Massacre, you'll never forget the Driller Killer. Courtney won't. She survived. The good news is she knows he's dead. The bad news is she thinks he's back.
He's dead. Now it's time for the fun part. He's in his house somewhere.
Well, it's 9 o'clock and you're ready to rock. My motorcycle's out of house. Well, you say why? I say because let's burn. Slumber Party Massacre 2. If you go, don't go all the way.
Slumber Party Massacre 2 is the only direct sequel to the original film, although the spin-off films Sorority House Massacre 2, Hard to Die, and Cheerleader Massacre all steal scenes from the original movie and claim to be following it up. This is the only one that genuinely picks up with the plot of the original film. And much like the original film, this one is written and directed by women, so it has that going for it. But despite that tie, and despite the bringing over of my favorite character from the previous film as the new protagonist of this film, it really feels highly disconnected from the original. It tends to emphasize the humor far more than the original did. In fact, it barely registers as a slasher film. Our beloved Courtney from the first film has come back, and now she is being haunted by dreams of a driller killer, but not the driller killer from the previous movie, because that would make far too much sense. Instead, it's as if her dreams have been invaded by one of the T-birds from Greece. The film proceeds as sort of a strange mix of Jacob's Ladder and the Adventures of Ford Fairlane, if that's even possible. And I was actually willing to give it a chance, because I think it actually starts off with a strong first act, unlike the original film. But as the killer emerges into the real world and starts picking people off with his guitar drill, I said, if it gives me a good ending, it gives me a satisfying ending, I'll be for it, and if it doesn't, I'm going to have to completely deride this film. And you get to the ending, and it's one of those Nightmare on Elm Street-esque non-endings, except Nightmare on Elm Street had a solid film to precede it and was able to get away with a bad ending. Did anyone actually die? Who was killing them? Was it this person who emerged from Courtney's subconscious, or was it Courtney herself? Or was this all dreaming? Was this her coping with her feelings of repression? Which doesn't really make sense anyway. I don't know why she's characterized as a repressed teenager in this film when she was anything but repressed in the original film. It's just an insult to the audience. So, unless you are just a big aficionado of terrible, terrible movies, I would not recommend this at all.
Those are the movies you thought he should review? Clearly he should review the third film in the series. It's dark and unsettling, unlike those two comedies you had him watch. Mr. Subtitle, play the preview.
Summertime. And the only thing the girls of Malibu Beach need is good music, good friends, and guys. They just invited the wrong guy. Now, the Driller Killer's back. Slumber Party Massacre, Part 3.
Slumber Party Massacre 3, the final chapter of the trilogy, is not really a sequel at all so much as a remake. In fact, watching the film, you might even be surprised that it has anything new to bring to the series, because it starts off pretty standard. The only interesting thing at the beginning is the idea that we don't know quite who the killer is going to be. We're given a series of potential killers, all blonde-haired men, which seems completely irrelevant to anything. But as the film proceeds, we see that's a pretty standard rehash of the original with no continuity ties, until we get to the third act, which is actually where the movie kind of picks up, and we get a new motive for our killer that's completely different from Russ Thorne's motive, child abuse and molestation. It leads to a fascinating, dark turn that the movie takes. In fact, there's a really vicious rape-murder scene near the end that is genuinely unsettling. It's really the only unsettling scene in the entire franchise, but hey, one is more than nothing, right? Still, I can't give it a glowing recommendation because this is probably the weakest cast of the trilogy. In fact, these young women probably look less like young women than any of the other ones. The advantage of the original film is that the young actresses generally look like just plain average young women. They didn't look like models. By the second film, you start to get a bit more into the pretty faces, sort of thing. But here, I can't buy them as teenage girls. So it's certainly not a complete insult like the second film was. But at the same time, it's far less memorable than the second film, and I would almost be willing to recommend the second film over it, simply for being creative.
Since it's New Year's Eve and all, shouldn't we have asked him to review something timely, like New Year's Evil, End of Days, or Ghostbusters 2?
I guess you have a point.
Or maybe we should review the Back to the Future trilogy. 2015 is just around the corner.
Well, it's a bit late for that now. The countdown's already started.
10,
9,
8,
9,
6,
5,
4,
3,
2.
1.
Happy birthday! Oh, wait.
Wow, it's really been fun hanging out with you guys. It's almost as though I've known you for a long time. It's like, I'm part of this old crew, this band of buddies, obviously I'm not, because I don't really know any of you, but this is fun. Tell you what, let's make a New Year's resolution. How how about we get into more zany adventures this upcoming year? Count on it.
Thank you, Reviewniverse fans, for joining us for these glorified cameos.
And a happy new year to all! And to all a good night.